Hi all, I have an absolutely magnificent game to show you. Leela against Laser in the Chess.com Blitz Battle 2018. This is a 5 minutes with 2-second increments game. Leela kicks off with d4. Laser plays knight f6. We see c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, c6. Pretty standard stuff. Bishop g5, knight bd7, e3, h6. Now bishop f4 is played. More usual to go into the main lines here would be bishop to h4. For example, this, queen c2 and rook d1. This is an even position, well trodden. Bishop f4 makes it slightly unusual for the moment, especially after knight h5. So Laser chasing this dark square bishop. Leela actually plays bishop e5, not minding losing a knight. Sometimes we get more pressure on the other colour when a bishop is taken. That might be the case here. Black actually just went back, and after bishop g3, annoyingly seemed to just want to draw with the black pieces. So Leela puts the bishop back, and now Leela varies with bishop d3. Bishop e7. You might think taking. We can explore that here. For example, knight takes bishop b4. This should be a small edge for white, this kind of position. Okay, so bishop e7 was played. Both sides castle. Queen e2, and now knight takes e5 here. So we have an imbalance of material. We have c5, rook ad1, d takes, bishop takes, queen c7. So what is a good plan in this position? Leela goes a bit cavewoman in this position actually, and sometimes you hear this advice to players under say 1800 not to try and touch the f-pawn, because there's a reason for this. You don't want to touch the f-pawn, especially if you've castled kingside, which is the default, because quite often you're weakening this diagonal. If you look at this diagonal, when you move the f-pawn, you're weakening that diagonal. And here, in fact, black has also got a dark square bishop. So is this especially bad to be playing f4 here? Well, this is actually what Leela played. C takes, e takes. And now a6, as though there's an interest in b5. Now, actually, that stopped for a moment with a4. We have bishop d6. And now, how is this f-pawn move justified? You might think, well, is the idea to play f5 or something? In fact, there's actually a mega aggressive plan used by Leela, which is why Leela's play is out of this world for chess engines, so to speak. Totally out of this world, attacking chess from this position. What would you play with white? Okay. There's another little rule which is told to players under, say, 1800 not to try and avoid moving pawns around your king, because you create vacuums of weaknesses. The thing is, let's use a different colour. Sometimes these vacuums can be exploited quite easily, but here, with the bishop still on c8, is it really going to tap in to this diagonal and coordinate with another piece to inflict some damage? That pawn will need to move first. Is black in a position to exploit this vacuum or not? But you might think, what is actually the point of this anyway? Is it actually for g5? Because black actually plays knight d7 here, really dissuading g5, which doesn't that make this pointless? Because if we try g5 here, then hg, fg, and black takes on e5 and gets a very, very nice position, technically winning position. So what could be the point here? Hasn't white just weakened herself? Sometimes I think a certain move may look crazy, and you might do another move which gives the impression you're really crazy. And at this point, You could sometimes, it seems, show method in the madness. There's an expression, show method in the madness. And Leela actually shows method in the madness. Although she seems to have played two crazy looking moves, method is showing in the madness with the next move. Can you guess? If I give you 5 seconds here. Okay. H4. So as far as the vacuum of weaknesses is concerned, yeah, Leela has created a big vacuum of weaknesses. You might think, so that's where all these millions of games of training have gone into, to play like this. Yeah, that's why it ends up on YouTube playing like this. And it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a joy to behold this position with H4. Because this is seriously dangerous now with G5 incoming. Because to be able to recapture the H pawn justifies the whole thing here, in my view. Knight takes was played. F takes. Bishop E7, you might think the dark squares are going to be weakened. If we play H5, doesn't black just get a really good grip on the dark squares? Positional torture, end of attack. So what's the idea here? Sometimes you need to go all in with the crazy moves. All in to emphasize the actually unexpected upside. Leela goes all in with a pawn sack here. And all of a sudden, things are looking really, really dangerous. HG, HG. Bishop takes G5 is played. Knight E4. Here, if Bishop E7, then, yeah, this is a really interesting position after Bishop E7 in particular, because Queen G4 is so dangerous. It doesn't even matter about the hanging bishop, because of Knight F6 being so dangerous here. So, for example, let's say black doesn't want to take the bishop, Rook D8, Knight F6 check, and actually we go on a king hunt after Knight H5, and then bang, Rook takes F7 check. This F file is actually lethal. Knight G7 check, and this is a lot of fun, with Queen takes E6 checkmate. So yeah, that's some of the highlights of Bishop E7. It seems Queen G4 is absolutely winning. If black does take the pawn, then check. If the king goes here, then that's mate. So if we get this form pawn, that's going to be mating. After Queen H4, there's no real stopping Queen H6 here. The black queen is not really in time here to do anything against Queen H6. For example, here Queen H6 mating on G7 next. So yeah, these lines are all winning after Queen G4. So the bishop hangs around. Bishop H6. Bishop D3 now. This is just so dangerous, this position. We have the possibility now of Knight F6 check here with a form pawn or other stuff being installed. Black played F6 to stop that. On B6, just to demonstrate this, Knight F6 check takes. We don't have to get the form pawn here. We can play the check first. And actually, we can do it without a form pawn with Rook takes F6. Because if Rook G8, then there's mate. And here, it's so dangerous. If check King G2, and that introduces Rook H1 checkmating. So even if the queen's pinned, well, there's also, yeah, the bishop's eyeing that, but it's not stopping Rook H1, is it? So let's just put this on the board. In fact, Rook G8, there's actually Rook H1. And it's like, yeah, it's lovely checkmating net after Bishop H6. So King G2, let's imagine check, though. King H3, which means that Rook G8 is not pinning the queen. So we're back to very, very nasty stuff. So say Rook G8, check. Here, Rook G1 to deflect the bishop away from the key square, the key defensive square. So for example, takes is mate. And if not taking, if King F8, then this is really winning for white after Bishop G6. The attack on the F file is absolutely devastating. For example, this is a forcing checkmate. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with Knight F6 check here. So in fact, you know, this F6 was played. E takes. B5. Yeah, on g takes, then knight takes f6 is possible. And there's no problem with queen g3 check, because we just play queen g2, pinning the queen to the king. So b5 was played. Queen g4. e5 hitting the queen on g4. The queen goes in with queen g6 with the big threat here of knight g5, and you can see that the bishop and queen are working well on this h7 square. So queen f7, just to put that on the board though, bishop b7, knight g5, so threatening checkmate in 1 because the knight's holding f7 here. So queen h7 checkmate is threatened. If takes, check, this is crushing. F takes, discovering a check there, and it's absolutely lethal. This is lethal enough just taking. Better is even with a knight, but this is winning anyway. So these are all really dangerous lines. So queen f7 was played, and now taking, and there's a punchline here. It looks as though, hold on a sec, what on earth is Leela doing? The attack's just gone, hasn't it? Rook takes. There's a separate punchline to this game after a takes b5. There's an immediate threat here after a takes b5 of bishop c4. Black is being kept on its toes here considerably if you look at this position. So you might think, well, what about recapturing? We have check, king g2, and in fact in this position black thought it best to play bishop takes d4. That does get rid of that dangerous pawn, because d takes e5 is another serious concern. If we look at this position, we've got the lovely option of d takes e5 here as well to think about. So black takes off this pawn, but forcing move again, knight d6. We have rook takes f6, and lo and behold here, after taking bishop e4, there's a new danger in town in this position. First of all, the rook can't step off the back row because it's protecting the c8 bishop. So there looks to be only one move here, which is rook b8 to keep the bishop protected. And Leela goes in for an opposite colour bishop ending, which in games of the past in these tournaments people dreaded because isn't it just drawn? But actually this is so winning, this position, that black agreed that it was so winning already with rook takes b5, just letting the piece go. If we look at this, why not take on c8? Rook takes c8, there's b takes a6 with the immediate threat of rook takes d4 and a7 winning. If we take out this blockade of a7, we can play a7 and the bishop is guiding that pawn home. So you might think, well, hold on, couldn't rook takes have been played immediately? It turns out this doesn't quite work here because d3 is a horrible deflection. If the bishop is distracted back, it turns out that the king can just come back in time. Yeah, this check was also, this is in computer analysis. Black can snap off these pawns just in time. Yeah, not moving the rook or anything. Black can just play for a draw of king takes b6. And yeah, that's going to be a draw. Yeah, so that's a real crunch variation indeed. Yeah, so rook takes d4 is not quite working. So doesn't matter, because if we look at this again on rook takes c8, b takes a6. Now the critical line here is now rook takes an a7. This is quick enough. So say bishop b6, rook d6, and black is just busted here. The blockade cannot actually be kept in this position. This is a truly magnificent bishop and a truly magnificent pawn just edging its way up there. So if we look at this position with bishop e3, the king can go to f3, and here rook d7 to be able to play a7 is winning. For example, f5 check and then a7. Black would have to give up the piece, and white's winning this because there's a pawn there as well to avoid drawn endgames. So yeah, that's why the piece was just left. So a piece up here, b3, a nice elegant way of protecting the pawn. If rook takes, then there's check, and then we take on b3. So king g7, the pawn is officially protected. Now a piece up, how does Leela convert this? Check, king comes up. Now knight d6, hitting both b5 and f5. That's taken off. It's looking a little bit too dangerous to do anything else here. So bishop takes, check, taking this pawn. Black really hasn't got sufficient compensation here. White's just a bishop up really. King comes up to help support the pawn. Coming up aggressively and then going back over here. And yep, all the black pawns dangerous here. Let's see, bishop g4. Not really. They're blockaded here by that lovely bishop again. Now here, there's always taking and then rook e7 check if e2. So we have rook g2. Bishop keeps the blockade. Keeps the blockade. Check, check, check. Going there. Rook f8. Check. Now here, king c5. Again, e2 is not possible. We're just taking a rook e8 check, picking up the rook on e2. So we get some high-level shuffling. Now the pawn protected. And is stepping up. Now here, this is just desperate. e2 check. Yeah. Black is running out of things to do now, except pointless checks. And it's just... yeah, it's played to the death, this game, until the checkmate. So there you have it. So lesson for this game. Yeah, we do get general rules of thumb, especially players are often told, don't even touch the f-pawn. Definitely don't create a massive vacuum of weaknesses around your king. But as it gets crazier and crazier, sometimes something ignites which shows method in the madness. But if you're actually playing this over the board, I think you might be worrying your teammates if it's a team club match to start playing f4, g4 and h4. Also, I don't know, people might start laughing at you and it might actually cause interference to the whole calmness of the match might be affected with such play. So but anyway, yeah, other than that, it's a very fun, entertaining way to play, which Leela demonstrated in this game. And it wasn't even about mating, it seems, after the black king. This endgame with the passed a pawn and opposite colour bishops just seems totally winning. So transitioning to that, from the simplification, which was caused by black having to defend like crazy, the queen's coming off, at an awkward moment. So that got exploited just for a totally winning endgame position. Wonderful stuff. Okay, hope you enjoyed it as much as me. And yeah, if you did enjoy this video as much as me, please click on the top left box, which should appear soon, to become a member of chessworld.net. You can play against other YouTubers with that reference code 1053, which is me. And you can also check out all this analysis in advance on the Learn from the Masters menu. Improve Learn from the Masters. Yeah, I do all the analysis in advance before uploading to YouTube, so check that out as well. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.